We are here. Let's get going. Um, so first of all, just welcome. I'm really glad everyone's here. And whether you're just out of a relationship or you're still feeling the echoes of something that might have happened a long time ago, because healing isn't linear. We know this. It takes a while. Sometimes you get dragged backwards when you think you're really moving forward, two steps forward, one step back kind of a thing. Um, or like that's what we're going to talk about today. And I just want to remind everyone here on TikTok and on Facebook, engage live, even if you're in the Facebook group watching the replay, because it helps me know what resonates for you and it helps you remember things too. And not everything I'm going to cover today or every situation or reference I'm going to make is going to really reflect your experience because it's just not possible for me to do that. But for some of you, it's going to be spot on and make total sense. So just take what makes sense for you. And if you want to talk about your specific situation, I do free sessions. And if that's the only time we talk, I promise you will leave with value. And I have people call me crying, and maybe it's not the right time for us to work together, but sometimes you just need like an objective person to really listen to what's going on. And I want to be there for you because I've been there and felt like I didn't really have anywhere to go. So anyway, but first of all, I'm Caroline. Welcome, especially if you're new here. I am a former white glove matchmaker turned certified NLP and life coach, and I specialize in helping daters navigate burnout because discouragement is burnout, and burnout is really where people start to feel like they want to give up on something they might truly want in life. So, after working for years one on one with hundreds and hundreds of daters, I know that with the right tools, you can stay grounded, keep your goals in focus, and move through discouragement without like spiraling into burnout and cynicism. So, what I do with clients, it's a transformation. You have permanent tools to help you move forward, manage discouragement, stay focused on your goals. Like you have all of that with you. And so you don't have to worry that it's not like, it's not therapy. But I know when I go to therapy, like I'm there every week. If you work with me, we work a program, we work a system together, and we stay focused on this particular goal. And then when you're done, we're done. And recently, I mean, if anyone's heard about that, the one woman who met her husband after spending a year and all told like $12,000 on a dating coach, which the results are priceless, and I'm not faulting that at all. I'm going to tell you, we can do it in as little as 6 weeks. We're going to cover the same themes. I know who it is, and I've looked at all of their stuff, and it's really similar to the program I'd put together after all these years of matchmaking, and decimal points away from $12,000. I have a couple of programs, pennies compared to that, and I do them bespoke, and I have payment plans. So really, you can have those kinds of results if that's what you want. I'm not the kind of person who's like marriage, marriage, marriage. I believe in just having a healthy partnership, however that looks for you, that supports you, your goals, makes your life feel more meaningful, provides support in difficult times. That's really what I'm focused on. I don't really care if you get married, right? Like that's if that's your goal, that's your goal. But if just having that partner is your goal, then that's your goal, right? And that's fine. So that's really what I'm focused on. But at the core of my work is this belief, and it's not about finding the one perfect person who makes all your previous relationship struggles just disappear, because they won't. They just show up differently. You need the right dynamic for who you actually are and what you want out of life, which is 50% under your control because it's your dynamic, right? So my job is to help you build that life, starting with clarity and empowerment and real support. And yes, I know that there are bigger problems in the world. I get up and I start mainlining news. It's not healthy, but it's kind of what I do. As soon as I'm done meditating, I just kind of negate the meditation and I go straight into what's going on in the world. I know there are bigger problems in the world that make dating or some of our personal goals feel really trivial. But if you want to not focus on love right now, if you like can't or you don't want to, I totally understand. Opting out can totally feel like the right thing to do. I support that. But also choosing to keep going and to care about building the one life that you have and love that feels meaningful to you is also how we take care of ourselves, right? So it's okay to want joy in hard times. It's okay to want to focus only on what you can control. And it can help you manage stress. And honestly, if you're not feeling stress and worry because of events going on in the country and around the world right now, then I'm not the person you're going to want to get guidance from. We're not going to be very aligned, okay? But if you're ready to leave burnout behind and build something real, you're in the right place. So just make sure you subscribe to my newsletter. The link is in my bio. I put my newsletter link up in Facebook every once in a while. It's on my website. Make sure you subscribe to stay on top of news, resources, and announcements, especially this month. The entire theme is about moving on, healing from the past, and moving on. And that's what we're covering all month, okay? So today's session is one, it's about your baggage, right? So it's called Lessons Not Luggage, how to learn from the past without carrying it forward. And I've said a lot, like the past doesn't exist anymore. Take your lesson, move on, leave the rest, right? You don't need to carry these stories with you and that they're getting in your way. But if you've ever thought like, I wish I could just understand what happened, right? Or if they just explain, maybe I could move on, or I should have seen the signs. How didn't I know? Or how could they move on so quickly? Then this session is for you. So the first thing we're going to do is think about that fantasy redo, right? And we're going to start with a really, you might hear it and know it, but it's hard to feel it. And that is that you don't always get closure. You just don't. We can fantasize about that perfect final moment. It's kind of like when somebody says something awful to you and you think of the perfect comeback like months later and you're like, why did I think of it then? By the way, if you ever think of like good generic comebacks, just like put them in your phone and just kind of like, there's a few that you can like just have ready. But it's normal to kind of like replay those last moments and think about like what could have changed, like what could have been better, what would have made me feel better. But the past, I mean, we fantasize about it, right? They might like admit that they were wrong, or they give us one more chance, or we get to say everything we didn't get to say at that moment. But waiting for that moment or even wishing it could have happened, it keeps you stuck. Most people who hold on to pain from like a past relationship are still hoping for a sense of completion that will likely never come. And sometimes, it's normal to want to be seen, right? And other times we want to know we mattered, right? That we made an impact. Sometimes we want revenge, if we're honest. But here's something to really remember to take with you today. A story doesn't need to end neatly for you to move on. You know, the story ends when you stop rereading the chapter and start writing the next one. So it's good to ask yourself, am I trying to change the past or am I trying to learn from it? Right? Because you can't change the past. Just because they never came back to apologize or explain, it doesn't mean you can't move forward. Like, have you ever read a book where, or watched a movie and you're wishing it would go differently. Like this time I'm going to read it and some like the thing that happened isn't going to happen. I get to change it. But you know that it won't, right? Because it already happened. They can't like not walk down and explore the basement. Your beloved lead character can't die at the end. Like these are things that are not going to change and is exactly the same as your past. You cannot go back and rewrite it. You cannot change it. Like, for example, okay, thinking about people not being able to apologize or explain or really get any closure. Like, I found out recently that my ex husband thinks I left our marriage of over a decade because he was laid off from a particular job. That means, like, he feels like I was shocked to hear this, shocked. But that means he feels he didn't do anything beyond have something totally out of his control happen that caused our marriage to end. So this absolves him of any fault. It frees him from needing to do anything differently to make his current marriage better. And it's just a really easy story for him to tell himself that keeps him caught in the past. And it's been over a decade since we split. But in reality, his job losses had nothing to do with my unhappiness. Like all the causes were internal and under his and our control. And I'll never get that typical closure from him because he'll never realize, right? But that has no bearing on my life now. That only impacts him and his life. I know my truth. I know what I did, why I did what I did, which was leave to take care of myself and be a better example for my daughter. I know my truth. That's all I care about. It's my life, right? His life is his life. So, there's a reason why we obsess. There's a reason we get stuck on what went wrong because your brain is a pattern seeking machine. Okay. It's wired to look for cause and effect, especially when something feels unresolved, or worse, when it seems to come out of nowhere. I did that other discussion about blindside breakups. It's on my YouTube. You can find it on my YouTube. That's why you replay conversations, reread texts, or stalk their social media. Like you're trying to make meaning out of things and to look for a clear answer or a point where things started to unravel and you can understand it better. But the problem is when we obsess about something in the past, we get further from our own healing and we focus on them instead of reflecting on ourselves moving forward. And we relive the pain instead of trying to heal the wound. So we try to rewrite the story instead of asking, like, what did this experience teach me? Right? And there's no guarantee that having that answer will heal you or make it easier for you to move forward. You don't actually know because you don't have it, right? You just think that's the case, but you don't actually know for sure because you don't really know what they would say, right? In my case, my ex husband would say, "Oh, well, I know you left because I got laid off from that job at that, critical point." And that wouldn't make me feel any better because that's not true. It's it's not true. So, it could be wholly unsatisfying like that. It could be incorrect like that, or it could cause you much more pain than what you're already experiencing, even if what they said isn't true. Sometimes it hurts more when it's not true because someone's really walking around with a belief and you want to scream, like, that's not true. That's not what happened. But this is where like intentional reflection comes into play. So, let's think about like I have a reflective exercise. So it's kind of like a relationship debrief and we're going to do this together. And I want you to, if you have a notebook, you watch this on the replay, grab a notebook, or just reflect quietly and we'll walk through this debrief, right? And this is part of my program. This is one of the first things we do because we're going to look for patterns. There might not be any, Okay. But we're going to see if there's patterns because generally there are things within your control that you are recreating, right? Sometimes we follow feelings or people because they feel familiar, but that familiarity isn't necessarily good. It just feels comfortable. So you can do this for like a recent breakup or something from years ago that still takes up space in your heart. So you want to ask yourself, what did I learn about my needs in that relationship? Maybe you realized you need more verbal reassurance or more emotional availability, or you picked someone who didn't have shared values with you. Maybe you learned you need to set expectations sooner or have fewer expectations of another person. The next thing is related. It's what boundary did I wish I had enforced earlier, right? And this might be about communication, time, intimacy, or even just your own priorities. And it might just be moments where you felt bad, but you didn't say anything at the time. So it happened more. And now you only see that in hindsight that you should have made that clear. I remember I was in this relationship after my divorce, and for it was like my first like big relationship. It was the one where I had a blindside breakup, and he we I used to have like my daughter was always like she was with me more of the time. Like I had her more of the time. Now she lives with me full time, but she was with me more of the time, and so I always want to like focus on her and prioritize her. So on certain like nights when I had her, then like I wouldn't see my boyfriend at the time, and he lived super nearby. And so I would say like, hey, Tuesday night, like I'm home if you want to come over and have dinner with us on Tuesday night or something. And he would say, oh, maybe, and like not commit. And then that gave me anxiety because I didn't know if he was coming. And like dinner was getting closer. I didn't know if he was coming. And it made me feel like I was like an option. And I'm like, why am I extending? I was worried that he felt like unwanted or that I was like pushing him away. So I was like trying to include him, but then he like wasn't saying yes to anything. So finally, after this happened like several times, which I should have said something the first time, but I was still learning myself again. I was still trying to come back to myself after being married for so long. And I said, hey, like it makes me feel bad when I don't know what you're going to do, like if you're coming or not. I'm trying to plan dinner, I'm trying to manage like if my kid thinks somebody's joining us, like I, want to know. And I can't remember what he said, but I remember it felt like not like he really understood. And so I just stopped inviting after that for like that kind of event. But I wish that I had said something earlier, So now I really watch out for that. If I have a feeling about something, I kind of like sit with it a minute and I try to articulate it and go like, is this why? And I feel like maybe this is I'll feel like maybe this is why I'm not feeling good, and then see, does it taste true? Does it feel true? If so, then let me figure out how to express this to somebody. Um, okay, the next one is, what value did I compromise that I won't compromise again? So, like, did you bend too far to be chosen? Did you ignore red flags because of chemistry? And man, we could talk about that forever. Chemistry. Um, did you change your spending habits? Did you move slower or faster than you wanted to in the relationship? Did you keep waiting for someone to commit, or did you allow someone to push you to commit too soon? Or, and then what was the good from that relationship that you want to carry forward? And now this one is really important because healing isn't just about avoiding mistakes in the next relationship. It's about recognizing what did work for you, right? So in every relationship, there is something you can treasure while separating it from the rest of the experience, even the person, you know? So, for example, I had a relationship with someone who was like way more spontaneous than I am, and I learned to be less uptight about planning and preparation sometimes. And it's made my life a lot better, right? And I don't have to give him credit for that because I chose to go along to get along and push myself that way. I did that. I could have said, like, oh, that's not enough notice. Like, I'm not going to do that. Or, I'll wait here, you go ahead, or something like that. But I wanted to go. So I would like go. And I've become a slightly more spontaneous person now who has like more unplanned fun. I'm more open to a diversion or, that like stop along the way on a road trip because something suddenly like looks really interesting. Or to just, you know, somebody calls and they're like, "Are you nearby? I'm at the park. I have snacks. Do you want to hang out?" Like I can pop over a lot more easily than I used to. I used to really need like a plan. Um, Luckily, my partner now grew up in Germany. So I seem like completely fly by the seat of my pants in comparison to him, but I'm not. But it's definitely in comparison to him. Like if I say morning, he wants to know exactly what time, and then he'll be ready at that exact time. And I'm like, oh, well, if breakfast gets done on time, if blah, blah, blah. But he'll be ready. So, it's quite a yin and yang now. But I used to like I needed to have my makeup on, I needed to be dressed, I needed, and then I learned like it's okay if I just throw on clothes and go for a walk. I don't need to be ready to be seen or go out. So it has improved my life, and that's something I definitely like took with me. So just like don't rush this kind of thought process, these musings, like they're answers. The answers that you're going to come up with as you go through this, they're the foundation for dating differently next time, right? This is a tool you take with you. Um and the final thing we're going to talk about today is red flags versus regrets. Okay, so one of like the biggest mindset shifts that changes your dating life is learning the difference between a red flag and like a regret. So a red flag is like a pattern of behavior that suggests emotional immaturity or disrespect, instability, or like extreme incompatibility. So, for an example, would be like they never listened when you expressed a need, or they lied, or they manipulated, or they were secretive, or they constantly pushed your stated boundaries, or, they engage in certain hobbies that just like really don't align with your lifestyle and indicate like risk taking that would be harmful to you in the long term. Like if you found out someone like has lost a lot of money like gambling, right? You gotta think like, do you want to partner with someone who's done that before, because they're probably gonna do it again. So now a regret is different because it's about like your actions and your choices. So when you wish you had shown up differently, so an example would be like ignoring your gut, or giving more than you have, or you stayed too long, or you were too agreeable. Like I let my ex-boyfriend just like not confirm if he was going to accept or reject an invitation. Like I let him do that. I have regrets about that. But the way I manage that is that I make sure that when I extend an invitation, that if you don't answer me, then it's a no. That's clear to me. If you don't say yes or you don't answer me, then you declined. And I'm not going to make a plan around that. It's like when you ask someone, like, oh, do you want something to drink? And they're like, sure. And you're like, oh, well, I have, like this or this or this. And they go, oh, whatever. Then I don't bring them anything because I, I made an offer, and like the considerate thing to do is to reply with a selection, right? I offered what I was willing to bring you. I did not offer that I was willing to choose for you. So, um, so regrets are for reflection, not punishment, right? You don't have to like beat yourself over the back about something you wish you'd done differently. Um, they're meant to inform your growth, right? Not your shame. They are the basis of the promises that you will make to yourself going forward to break patterns that don't serve your goals. So, red flags are for your discernment, right? So, not every red flag is a deal breaker because for someone else, it may not be an issue at all, but you don't need to date someone's potential, right? Because that's a fantasy. Potential is a fantasy. All you know is that this person is showing you who they are right now. That's the only thing you can be sure of. That's why it always takes so long to get to know someone because you have to see them under a lot of different situations and a lot of different circumstances, and you have to really live through a lot of different things with them before you really understand who they are. Okay, so in closing, you deserve a fresh start, but that begins with letting go of what no longer serves you. So if you want help making peace with the past, just book that free session. We can discuss relationship patterns, how you want your next chapter to look, and I'll send you my free conversation starters guide so you can stand out on the apps or in real life without selling yourself um, instead just focus on like making connections, finding out the things you need to know. The links are in my bio and in the comments in the group here. So don't wait because the past doesn't define you unless you keep dragging it forward. Just put the luggage down, right? So thank you for joining. Reminder, or to let you know, there is no live session next week. I have a lot going on. I will not be able to deliver a live session. But the week after, we're going to talk about how you can know if you're ready to date again, right? Because if anyone's ever told you, like, oh, it takes a week for every month you were together to get over somebody, like, there is no math. There's no math for that. So that's what we're going to talk about, how to know if you're ready to date again after a breakup or heartbreak. And then 2 days after that, we do the free workshop, which is your next chapter, moving on after a breakup. And we'll spend a couple hours diving into how you can create the life and love you dream about after a relationship ended. And link is in the bio. I'll put the links in the comment to ensure that you save your seat. Okay. And I would also like to know what's one lesson from your past relationship you're willing to take forward, and then one thing you're going to leave behind. Okay. Bye. Thanks for joining. Have a good rest of your week and weekend.